Okay, thanks, Maddie. Hi, everybody. I'm Annie. I'm an implementation support contractor through ICF, working under Energy Star. And I'm going to be presenting today our webinar, part of our Portfolio Manager series. This is the second one on editing property details using the data quality checker and sharing property data. So we're just generally going to take a closer look at some of the more advanced features of Portfolio Manager than what you would have seen in the first one. So some of our objectives include showing you how to maintain accurate data in Portfolio Manager. And to do that, I'll demonstrate how to edit existing property data, how to change property use details. I'll show you how to use the data quality checker and how to share a property, all in Portfolio Manager. And again, like I said, this is the second one of this series, so you're assuming that you know some things about Portfolio Manager already, that you're familiar with the basic functions, like the initial step of creating the appropriate records for your property. And if you're not familiar with that, no worries, just take a look at our Portfolio Manager 101 webinars, and they're posted on energystar.gov. And there's a link here in this slide, which you'll be getting after the webinar. It'll be sent out to the email you registered at. And you can go back and watch those, but stay on. Never hurts to kind of see where you're going, what other steps and functionalities are in Portfolio Manager if you haven't gone through the initial steps of creating your property. Okay, so let's get started with our first objective. I'm going to show you how to edit property data. And I'm going to share my screen now so I can kind of walk you through live. Okay. Does that look okay, Maddie? Can you see it all?
Yep, looks great.
Great. Okay, so we're here. We've logged into Portfolio Manager, and this is just the main My Portfolio tab. And this is where you can see all of your properties listed out. And what we're going to do first is just find the property that we want to make edits to and click right into it. So we're going to scroll down here, and in this top bar, we're going to click the Details tab. From this tab, you can do a lot of things. You can edit basic property information, you can edit property IDs, you can designate a service and product provider, which we'll get into more later. You can edit property use details. That's like the number of hours your building operates or the number of workers it has. And you can add an additional property use if you find that necessary, which we're also going to be doing today. But first, to edit basic property information, up here under your businesses or your property's name, mine is called Funny Business, haha, you can just click this edit button. And this will take you to the editing page. From here, you can edit the property's address within the US, and you can scroll down to edit additional property use details. Just property details, not property use details, two different things we'll get into again later. But yeah, in this property details section, you can edit all the basic information that you initially entered when you made your building. And that includes the building's primary function, whether the property is part of a larger building or is a single building, or includes multiple buildings. And you can also change the total gross floor area here and the units that you're measuring it in. You can change the reported occupancy, add any pictures if you'd like. And then down here in additional information, You can also choose whether or not the property's data is maintained by a service and product provider just by clicking yes or no. But one thing to note when you click yes, you will be prompted to select who that service product provider is, and you will have had to already enter that contact here in Portfolio Manager. And I'm going to show you how to do that later. So just make a mental note if you do want to click yes here, you're going to have to enter the contact information of the service product provider. And lastly, you can choose whether or not you're federal property. So if you make any changes here on this page, just click the Update Property button here at the bottom, and you'll get this green notification that your changes have been saved. Okay, I just want to take a second now to go over some tips on defining property use types, because this can sometimes be difficult if your property serves multiple functions. First, just know that the primary function of is going to be the property use that the building most closely identifies with. So what that means is if you have a property that is half hotel, half office, you can think, what is the main function of this property? And usually that will be pretty clear to most property managers, but if not, you can refer to our glossary for property use definitions. And if you're still unsure what category your building falls under, you should be able to identify it from the glossary. Typically, a building's primary function, though, will be represented by the majority of the building's square footage, which is a very easy way to kind of look at it. The next tip I want to go over is that there are only a few scenarios where you want to break out additional or add additional property uses. And that's the next function we're going to get into. But before we do that, just know that in general, you should try to enter as few property use types as possible. And again, check our guidance. We have so much specific guidance on these initial steps of setting up your property. So we'll put the link to our FAQ page in the chat, but if you search just a word or two, you should be able to see plenty of FAQs on that topic, and one of them will most likely have your answer. But yes, just try to use as few property use types as possible. Check our guidance if you need to. So for example, if your office building has several different office tenants, you should still benchmark all of the floor space within the property use as a single office entry, because kind of makes sense all of the space is being used as an office space, even if the office spaces are for vastly different, types of organizations. So now this is unless, though, any of the spaces should be defined as vacant or unoccupied of any kind. That will be a different property use type. You'll break out a vacant space as a separate property use if that vacant space makes up more than 10% of your total gross floor area. And also separately, you will break out a new property use if the hours of operation between tenants in the building differs by more than 10 hours. So if you have one tenant that's operating at 40 hours a week and another that's operating at 51 hours a week, then they would be broken out as different property use types. Last note before we get going into this example is that depending on the property type you selected when you're setting up your building initially, and how you respond to some of the basic prompts that Portfolio Manager gives you, Portfolio Manager may have already guided you into setting up an additional property-specific use type. Examples of that would be parking and data centers and maybe a swimming pool or something like that. Portfolio Manager is pretty preemptive, so you will be prompted to break those spaces out initially. Okay, so now let's get into this example of breaking out and adding a separate property use. This is going to be for a vacant office space. And know that You'll do the same sort of steps that we're doing here if you were breaking out properties for any of these, but we will just be doing vacant office space. So we're going to click this drop-down button that says add another type of use. Scroll down to the one we want, and for this it's office. We'll click office and click add. Okay, so let's say we have an office building and we want to add 10,000 square feet of vacant space. Let's say that's just come available. So here in this page, we're going to start off by renaming this space as vacant. Vacant office use, very important to differentiate there. So when defining the property use details for a vacant space, you're going to enter 0 for all values at first. We just want to see the space created on our main page, and we're going to come back and edit this later. So say 0 for GFA, operating hours, number of workers, number of computers. For this, we could leave it open, but for now, I'm just going to click 50% or more. And the current as of date will default to the year that your building was built. We're just going to leave that for right now. Again, at this point, we're just creating a record of vacant space, and we'll update these details to actually reflect the space going vacant in time next. So click Save, and you will see the new vacant office space created here on your main details tab now. It's at 0 square feet because that's what we entered. And now in the next step, I'm going to show you how to kind of correct or update, just generally change your property use details. And we're going to continue with the example of vacant space to update its square footage. But yeah, again, this is going to be the same steps you'd use for non-vacant space, any other properties, but we're just sticking with this example for now. So we're going to start with updating the information to correctly account for the vacant space that we're adding here. So we're going to click this drop-down bar and click Edit Use Details. And this takes us to this page where we can edit all of the information here. And what we're going to want to do now is for the gross floor area, click Add a New Row and update the gross floor area to reflect the amount of newly vacant space. So we're going to want the current as of date to be the date that this space actually became vacant. So let's say it happened in March of last year, 2022. That puts our current as of date past the date the building was built, of course. And we want to do 10,000 square feet of vacant space. So now that's been added here, right up here. And we want to update our weekly operating hours too. Well, actually, we don't need to because for vacant space, your weekly operating hours will be 0. And we see that's already what it was, in this year that the building was built. But just for the sake of example, we're going to add 0 in again. Oops. 0. And that's our current value. Number of workers on main shift, it's the same process I just showed you up here, but we're going to leave that for now since it's already at 0. And when you're done, just click Save. Successfully edited use details for this property. But now, once this is updated and saved, you'll notice that Portfolio Manager displays a gross floor area that's different from the number you entered. You can see these two don't match. And there's this red exclamation point alert showing that these two numbers are different. And that's essentially because we've created more space than what we stated this entire building has, right? This adds up to 110,000 square feet. So now we need to update the total, this building use to account for this amount of space that has gone vacant. So it's going to be the same process we just did to add vacant space, well, to edit the square footage of the vacant space. We're just going to click Edit Use Details. And go through the same process of adding a new row. And the vacant space became available on March 1st, 2022. So that's going to be the same date that we, lost, or subtracting that 10,000 square feet from our building square footage that is in use. So we're adding 90,000 square feet there for that date. And you can update your weekly operating hours. Let's just say, since that space became vacant on March 1st, 2022, we lost some workers, so, or lost some weekly operating hours. So let's put it down to 40 now. And let's say we also lost some workers all on that same day that space became vacant, March 1st, 2022. And we're down to 35 now. And we're just, for the sake of time, gonna leave our number of computers as it is. And percent that can be heated and cooled is 50% or more. So now just click Save. And that takes us back to our main page. And now you'll see that those two alerts that we had on our gross floor areas are the same. And that's because we've properly accounted for the amount of vacant space that has become available and the actual building use that is no longer available. Just note that as time goes on and maybe more floor space in your building gets leased, you can go through this process again and update the amount of vacant space or occupied space accordingly. You don't have to make new, you don't have to add any use types when you're adding vacant space. You can just change the square footage of each. Okay. If you want to check the details of these additions here, you can just click the drop-down button next to your property use type, and you can see all these details that you entered before and the date that those became accurate. You can do that with our vacant space as well. You can see all of it updated here. Okay. So one thing to note as well, if you're not actually adding new information, let's say we entered one of these numbers in error. Let's say instead of 10,000 square feet of vacant office use space, we actually wanted to do 20,000 square feet. The process is very similar, but now we're going to click Edit Use Details. But now, because this was a number entered in error, we don't want to add a new row because that will give us kind of a historical record of this new value. We already have the date that we wanted this vacancy to be shown, but we just want to edit the number. So all we do now is just go right in and click this number and change it. We don't need to add a new row. The date was correct, or maybe you do want to change the date. You can change that date, but you don't need to add a new row. And that's the same for all of these other values. We're going to leave this one at 0. Everything for vacant space at 0, because vacant space must have 0 operating hours and 0 workers and 0 computers, just kind of as a rule for certification. We can save that. But now, again, we need to balance out this total amount of square foot area, gross floor area. We're going to edit these details and change this down to 80,000 square feet. So our total gross floor area is adding back up to 100,000 square feet. And again, we're not making a historical record of this. We already have a row to represent this change, but we're just editing the values. So let's say we want to edit this operating hours to 45. Change the workers to 32. You can do that, just not adding a new row. And now we're going to hit save. Okay, so now you can see again, these numbers are the same. Our gross floor area are the same between the two, and that's exactly what we want. Okay, moving right along. So before we move on, just to summarize this whole process of editing property uses, creating new records of information versus kind of correcting mistakes. The real difference is one creates a historical record and the other doesn't. So you sort of have to decide when you're making these edits what needs to be shown as an actual change that happened at a certain date in the building versus what was an error. Respectively, one will have a historical record, a date attached to it, and one will just be a change in a value. Okay, now we're going to move on to our third objective of today, which is taking a look at some of the alert functionalities in Portfolio Manager, like the data quality checker. By now, you've probably noticed, and we've mentioned this already, changing our gross floor areas and property use details, that Portfolio Manager does provide a lot of guidance in the form of pop-up alerts, exclamation points, that kind of stuff. And there are usually embedded definitions in those, and they're just intended to prevent common data entry mistakes that you might encounter along the way when entering your property information. So one that we want to take a look at is in our meter entries. So Portfolio Manager will identify issues with your meter data, specifically any gaps or overlaps. They're going to be called out. So let's go into our energy tab, and you can already see there's a red exclamation point. So that alerts us that there's an issue in here somewhere that needs our attention. And if you just scroll down on this page, you'll see it again. It's kind of like following the rabbit trail. If you hover over, it says metrics cannot be calculated because data is incomplete. And we can click that to learn more. Clicking that tells us that there are gaps in our meter, and there are gaps in these certain dates, and it tells us exactly what to do and refers to an FAQ. All great information, but we're going to close that. And what we can do now is just click right into this alert, and that's going to pop up. This is a page that you would have seen if you did already enter some meter data. That's shown how to do in Portfolio Manager 101. But once you've done that, you can see these alerts at the top, kind of reiterating what we saw from that exclamation point. But there are gaps of 29 days between these dates, gaps of 30 days between these dates. And if you scroll down to see those between the entries, this alert also shows up where that gap occurs. And what you can do is either click in here and edit the dates. You can edit the entries for those meters that you added before, or if you need to, you can click add another entry. So maybe you want to add another entry to fill in this gap. You can edit the dates to do exactly that. I'm going to delete this though. Just another good functionality to know is clicking this box here will give you the options to click any of these links below, deleting selected entries. You can add another entry, learn how to copy and paste that entry, or you can delete all meter data for this meter. But for now, we're just gonna delete that one that I just made. So those are some good alerts to know. They're very helpful and give you a lot of direction on how to make your data continuous in order to get you to the place where you can apply for an Energy Star certification. Be mindful of those. We're just going to click Save Bills. It doesn't like that because we still have these issues, but we're just going to go right back to our building so I can show you a few more functionalities. One of the main ones being using the data quality checker. So another great feature that kind of provides an accessible summary of the issues that are kind of present in your property is this tool. So to access it, we're gonna stay here on the summary tab and scroll down here to where we see data quality checker. It says run a check for any 12-month time period to see if there are any possible errors found with your data. And we're just gonna click check for possible errors to get started. And like it sort of mentioned in its summary, it looks at the data quality checker looks at a metric year, and this is a user-defined 12-month time period. All metrics in Portfolio Manager are based on 12 months of data, a year, a metric year of data. So go ahead and select the year you want to look at. Let's just go ahead and stick with our March 2022. And we're going to click Run Checker. Okay, so the checker scans your property and immediately returns these results. And you can expand each one to see more and kind of get some more information on what you would need to do to address these issues. One thing to note is they're defined up here on the right. So the exclamation point and the stop sign indicates that data is incomplete or missing. Most likely at least one metric is not able to be calculated as a result. So these types of issues, the red stop signs, will prevent you from submitting an Energy Star application for certification. So these have to be addressed before you submit. On the other hand, these yellow kind of yield-looking signs are alerting you that there's some information that's missing, but you will still be able to apply for Energy Star certification. Your data is atypical, as up here in the definition. So you might want to just check those entries for errors. This is just telling me that I don't have a waste or material meter or water meters. But it's good to note that you're not required to enter data for waste or water in order to submit for an Energy Star. So we're going to leave those out because you don't need to address them, but these two up here you would want to address. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now. And if you can go ahead and open up the poll, Maddie, it'll be the second one. I'll get to that screen. Okay, so a little pop quiz here, just going over the data quality checker. The question is, the data quality checker does all of the following except what? identifies erroneous or anomalous data, reviews all entries for an individual property for a given 12-month period, fixes any data errors at your property, or runs the same checks used during the Energy Star certification process. So which of these 4 things does the data quality checker not do? And I will give you one hint because I didn't say this, my bad, but the data quality checker does run the same checks that we use during the Energy Star certification process, so don't pick D. It does do that. And as an application reviewer myself, I sometimes, when I'm reviewing a property, will run the data quality checker. If something kind of looks off in the meter data maybe, and I just want to get kind of an automated analysis, I might run the data quality checker. So don't pick D. Just give you a couple more seconds to go through this one. Okay. Can close that poll whenever. And the answer was C. So the data quality checker does not fix any data errors at your property. It will just identify the errors that you have, but it won't fix them. It will tell you how to fix them if you click the drop down to get more information, but it won't do it for you. Okay, so we're going to move on to our last objective for today, and that is to show you how to share property data. So I'll demonstrate how to connect with different contacts in Portfolio Manager and share data with them, as well as just entering contacts in the first place. Okay, let's just go over the slide first since we're here, might as well, before I start screen sharing again. There are 2 steps to sharing properties. It's useful, first of all, because it allows you to provide another Portfolio Manager user with access to a property record. You can specify viewing, reporting, and editing access if you like, and we'll go into kind of what all those mean. It's a simple process to do, and all you really have to do is connect with a Portfolio Manager user. You can connect with multiple users at a time if you want. And then you just share one or more of your properties with any or all of those contacts, and at any specific level of access that you choose. So start screen sharing again, and I will show you how to do that. Okay, does this look good? Is that big enough?
Looks great, yep.
Great. Okay, so the first step is to connect with a Portfolio Manager user that you want to share property with. Okay, so you're going to go to the contacts link at the top right of your corner on any Portfolio Manager page. So it's up here in the top right, wherever you are in Portfolio Manager, that's where it's going to be. So you can click that. And you can see I have already connected with some of my colleagues, and they're displayed here in the My Contacts page. The list is going to indicate contacts you've manually added to this list and contacts that you're connected with just through Portfolio Manager. You can see the connected status here that I have with both of these individuals, and it'll have this little chain link to also indicate that we've been connected. So now we want to add a new contact to search for users to connect with. So click this button up here, Add New Contact Connections. And that's going to take us to this page where you'll be able to search for other Portfolio Manager users that already have an account. That's what this up here is for. You can search them by name, organization, portfolio manager username, or email. And if you're trying to connect with a user and they aren't coming up in this search function, you should ask them to look at their preferences tab under account settings. And I'll show you how to do that here. Just go up to the top right, click account settings, and scroll down. Oh, where is it? Oh, okay. Go to your preferences, totally forgot. Click your preferences here. And yes, this question is what you will want them to see if they have selected. It says, do you want your username to be searchable by other portfolio manager users? And if they have selected no, then that means you won't be able to find them when you're searching, their name, email, portfolio manager username. So if they want you to find them, have them click yes and save that change. Let's go back to the context page. Click add new contacts. So yeah, you can search one of your colleagues. Maddie, are you in as Maddie or Madeline?
Madeline.
Madeline.
Yeah, that's probably why.
Thanks.
Yep.
So I'm searching Madeline here. Oh, doesn't come up.
Put an E between the L and the I. Spelling error.
Between the L and the I?
Yeah.
Like this?
Yep.
Okay, different spelling. I didn't know that. Okay, now we have some search results. You see everybody coming up here on the side now. And it displays the user's name, title, and organization. Typically, if you're the fourth one down. There you are. Yeah, so this is lovely Maddie here, our host. We're gonna connect with her. And just note that if you're not connected with the user already, and you can typically see if you are already, it'll say connected instead of connect. We're just gonna click this button here now. And it says a connection request has been sent to Madeline Albee. And I'm gonna click out of this notification here so you can sort of see it in another view. You can see the status changed to connection pending. And we have the ability to click cancel here if we don't actually want to connect with Maddie, but we do, so we're just gonna leave that. And once the connection request has been sent, you will receive a confirmation notice at the top of your screen. We can check that by going up here to notifications. And it says connection request has been sent to Madeline Albee. And we can see that again in our outgoing requests. That's right here and the date that it happened. And if you want, you can cancel it if you'd like. But the difference between canceling and clearing will just remove it from your notification center, but canceling will actually cancel the request if you choose to do so. These are just other notices, general stuff that happens when you're connected to people that'll show up here as well. And eventually, once you have connected with someone, the status will change to connected. Let me pull that up so you can see. So if you go back to the My Portfolio tab here and click into your property, we did, oh no, sorry, it's the sharing tab. Here we go. You have these notifications up here and you can clear or cancel those as well in your sharing tab if you'd like. You can scroll through this page too and toggle through the overview of shared properties. You can do that by contacts who have shared with me, or all of them if you'd like. Okay. So now we want to go through the process of actually sharing a property rather than just connecting with an individual. And if you're interested in exchanging data with a web service, through a web service with a third-party service provider, you can select this share with your utility or service provider for exchange data option here. But for now, we just want to share a property with an individual. So we're going to click this option here. Okay, so this is the share properties page. And from here, you can choose which properties you want to share by selecting share properties, or select properties, this button here. And you can select one, multiple, or all of the properties that you want to share. We're just going to choose the one that we've been working on already, which is the funny business. And if you look on the side of this page, well, first of all, I'll just show you if you select multiple properties through this window. The window on the side over here to the right will allow you to filter and select the specific properties you want to share. So you can filter by region if you want, the states that you have, state and province. You can filter by property type if you want to only see those types of properties in order to share them, and by construction status. We have existing properties and test properties. And you can select any of those to just help in your organization when sharing these properties. I just want to select this one though. And now we're going to move on to apply this selection. And oops. After selecting the property that you want to share with, you can select the contact that you want to share the property with. And you can just click one, or you can select multiple by holding down the control key and clicking another name. But we just want to share this one property with one person. Now we're going to scroll down to the choose permissions section. So we're just going to choose what particular level of access we want to give this user for a property. And you can choose bulk sharing if you have a single share, or if you're giving the same permissions to all of your shares. So by clicking this, you're giving one of these options to all of the individuals that you're sharing with. And the different selections you can choose from are read-only access, which means that your contact can look at your property data and include the property in their reports, but they won't be able to edit or update any of the property use details or meter consumption details for this property. Full access, that allows your contact to view and make any edits to the property. They can do everything you can do, except they can't delete the property. So this is the most expansive, obviously full, hence the name, access you can give someone else. And then this custom access allows you to select different levels of access for different aspects of your property record. So if we click into it here, oops, that's a good thing to demonstrate. If you click the actual blue line, it'll take you to the definition, but we want to just click the bubble. So this pops up. So you can specify full access for some things, for some meters and not others, or you can provide full access to meters, but read-only access to goals, which are things you enter in yourself. And you also have the option to allow the user to share forward your property. You can click yes or no here. And really what this means is that they can reshare the property that you have shared with them. But you do have to grant them this permission. So you can say yes or no. Then just hit apply selection. Once you've missed recognition, we'll go ahead and give full access there. Apply that selection. All right, you can also choose personalized sharing and exchange data if you'd like. This allows you to assign different rights across different properties or contacts. And that will be shown on the next page once you click continue here. So go ahead and do that. Here on the share your properties page, you'll see the property and the contacts that you're sharing it with here. No access is offered as an option if you would like, and this is because we chose the personalized sharing and exchange data option that we've been prompted to come to this page, and this is really helpful if you're managing a lot of properties and you're sharing them with certain people. And you want to specify which access across that you're giving to them. You can choose read-only and full access if you'd like. And again, you can choose custom access. It's going to prompt you back to this page. And again, you'll have the option to allow the user to share forward the property if you'd like, yes or no. We'll just go ahead and click none for all, save time, but you can choose any of these and then apply selection. Oops. All right, we'll do none for some things. Again, another great alert. I can't do that. Okay, and then apply the selection when you're done. And then just hit share properties once you've decided what levels and what levels with who you want to share the property. Click this here, and we'll get the notification that it has been sent. Okay, so again, this is where sharing notifications are going to appear for both accounts, the share and the recipient. Share will see a confirmation that a request was sent, and the recipient will see the same thing, but they'll have the option to accept or reject the request. And again, if you just hit clear from here, that doesn't cancel the request, it just removes it from your notification center. Okay, and then once your contact has accepted your sharing request, it'll show up in the overview of shared properties section down here, like we looked at already. You can sort, by property and by contact, and using the drop-down menu in the Actions tab here, you can decide whether or not you want to edit the property permissions or remove all access to the property. Or just view the property permissions that you've already shared with an individual. Are all options that you have through the sharing tab, going by property or by contact. You can do the same things in this action drop-down menu. And just note that everyone who has shared access to a property can also see the names of everyone else who has access to that property. And that's regardless of your specific permissions. Anyone who has shared access can see everyone else who has access. Okay. So just to recap here, through all this sharing, contact adding that we have done, let's kind of go back over the sharing rules and specifics of granting and editing access. And I want to show you this helpful slide to sort of demonstrate that. Okay, so the first one here, the property data administrator, they can edit anyone's sharing permissions. So you're like the owner, right? You're the one with the portfolio manager account. You have the properties in your account. You can edit anyone's sharing permissions whenever you want. And then with full access, that just means you can edit anyone's sharing permissions except for the property data administrator. So you're second in command essentially. And then with read-only access, that means you cannot edit anyone's access. And with custom access and exchange access, with both of those, only the people the property was directly shared with can edit sharing permissions. Also note that no other users can edit access for the property data administrator. Nobody else. And this next slide here, just to recap on sharing forward. If you've been given share forward access or you've given it to someone else, their abilities with the property are tied to the level of access they were granted with that share forward capability. So we saw that when we were selecting the level of access we wanted to give an individual in that custom access sort of page, when you click yes or no to sharing forward, that also determines their functionalities with the property that they were shared. So when you're sharing a property forward with a recipient, consider whether they need to share the property forward as well. Also take this into account when assigning access levels. So with full access, when you give an individual full access, they can always share that property forward. If you give read-only access, they can never share forward. And with custom access and exchange access, you have the option to give that individual the ability to share forward a property. Okay, gonna start screen sharing again. And this will be my last screen share to show you one final function. Okay, so the last thing I want to demonstrate is the transfer ownership function. The link to the transfer ownership can be found at the bottom of the property summary tab. So we're here in our property on the summary tab. We're going to scroll all the way down to this link here where it says transfer ownership. This is not the same thing as sharing a property with full access. Transferring ownership removes a building from one account and places it in another user's complete control. So it's essentially lost from you if you are the property owner. And you can only transfer ownership of a building if you are the property data administrator. So essentially the owner of the building is the only one who can do this, if at least that's how you're reflected in Portfolio Manager. So we're just going to click this link. Okay. And that takes us to the landing page where you can choose the property to transfer and who to transfer it to. You do need to already be connected with the contact to transfer ownership. Just like with your service product provider, you have to already be a contact. A little privacy note here too is that when you transfer ownership of a property, everyone else who has been shared that property will keep their existing shared access. So it doesn't erase the shared access you've already given. And lastly, on this topic, if you need access to an existing building record in Portfolio Manager, but the property data administrator for that record is not known or can't be reached for whatever reason, on the back end, we can transfer properties on behalf of the former owner. But of course, we can only do that in certain situations where it's completely warranted. So we do have to be able to verify in the database that both accounts, the original owner and the one that wants to be transferred ownership, they have to be registered under the same company. It's very important here. And both accounts have to be, they just have to be registered under the same company in order for us to be able to transfer ownership. And if you're not, the record may just need to be recreated entirely. Because as you can imagine, there are, larger security concerns there. But if you do find yourself in that situation, all you need to do is contact the help desk using the help link. And that's always going to be here at the top right corner of your screen, the little button help. You can click that. And then here on this page, you will click ask a question, send a question or comment to our staff. And just ask about our options if you run into, needing to transfer ownership of a property. And I might actually be the one to answer your ticket because I'm on this help desk as well. We're known for being very responsive, very quick. So this is essentially it is a live help desk. So your questions will be answered very quickly when using this. Okay. So stopping screen sharing now. I want to go to our last pop quiz to see if you're paying attention. So Maddie, if you want to open this last one up, I'm going to start to wrap things up today, and I'll read it. So it's true or false. In order to share a property record with another portfolio manager, you must first be connected to them. True or false? Next one is also true or false. If you share a property record with another portfolio manager user, you must allow them full read and write access to your data. True or false? There's no hints on this one because I told you everything you needed to know. Just a few more seconds on that. And again, you can shoot your questions in the chat to our host. I'm going to be going through those in, I guess, probably about no more than 5 minutes now. And if your question's really specific, we do ask that you send it to our help desk. I'm going to send that link in the chat right now, actually. We try to keep our Q&A sessions here on our live webinars to more like generally applicable questions, something that you think maybe wasn't answered in the presentation that should be. But if it's something very specific about, your property, an issue that you're facing, you'll definitely get more help, more personalized help if you submit a help desk ticket. So I'm going to shoot that here now. Okay. Can go ahead and stop the poll. And here's the answer. In order to share a property record with another portfolio manager user, you do have to first be connected with them in Portfolio Manager. So you have to add that contact, and then when you go to share a property, they'll show up in your drop-down menu when you want to choose the recipient. And then true or false, if you share a property record with another portfolio manager user, you must allow them full read and write access to your data. That's not true. Maybe you're just sharing it with a licensed professional or an auditor or something, and you don't want them to be able to edit your data. You would just share maybe read-only access, but you don't have to give full access. Okay, now our recap. In conclusion, after this webinar, we have touched on all of these following topics. We edited property data. We, saw how to edit your address, your building use, your square footage. And we also learned how to change property use details and specifically how to, make corrections if you entered something in error, or if you just want to add a new use or actually update a detail to something new and have a historical record of that. we saw how to use the data quality checker, and we looked at what all the different portfolio manager alerts mean, and kind of learned how to use those to get our property up to a state where we can submit for Energy Star certification. And we learned how to share a property. And we learned how to transfer ownership and add contacts. So hopefully those are all things that you at least feel more comfortable trying to do on your own now. Of course, it's going to take some practice. Portfolio managers, a great tool, but it's a big tool. And you might always need more help. And good thing we have our help desk. I'm going to plug it a million times because it really is a great way to just send any and every question you might have about your application. No question is too simple or too hard, really. I've seen some crazy questions come in, people just wanting to know about how we certify and the details of how we compare buildings across the country, and we're willing to even just discuss things like that. So shoot any and all questions you might have there. It's in the chat. It's also going to be in the slides here. And then you can also access many of these resources from the links provided in this slide. This is a good one to save and just have on hand. You don't have to be logged into Portfolio Manager to access all this information. They're open to anyone, and you can access them at any time. So I think that is all I have as part of the presentation. But continue to put your questions in the chat, and I think we'll take a couple second, maybe about a minute break, and then I'll get to answering all the questions that you've sent in. So thanks.
All right, I'll stop our recording now. And yeah, we'll get started on that question and answer session in a few moments.